Sherry? Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Caldwell, Burleson County, Texas, will convene in a regular meeting at the City Hall, 107 South Hill Street, Caldwell, Texas. Regular meeting place thereof at 5:30 p.m., September 19th, 2023. Please stand for the invitation given by Rhonda Tomasi.
Father, we thank you first of all for the cooler temperatures and the rain that you sent. And now we say, bless the council, bless their decisions, let them line up with your will, purpose, and plan for Caldwell, and we choose you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge to the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right, no citizens tonight. One lone citizen. All right. Okay, consent agenda items. If you've had a chance to look over that, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Is any discussion on those first? Do y'all have anything for consent agenda item you want to discuss? No.
Move for approval.
We have a second to accept the consent agenda items.
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. None opposed. Motion passes. Regular meeting agenda items. Amending the hotel occupancy tax reimbursement grant program application and reporting process from annual rolling submission to a semi-annual application deadline for grant applications.
So as we had discussed in our workshop back in July, we had talked about potentially doing just a one-time submittal, and then the council had requested to do a two-time submittal. So that is what we are presenting tonight. Myself and our finance team sat down and looked at different submission schedules, and we thought that these dates corresponded to what we could do as far as like getting everything to the council in proper manner with the reports and the data that y'all had requested, along with the applications, and then bringing forward the contracts and then the post-event reports to make sure that we had time to submit those and get those post-event reports reviewed so we could make sure to get their reimbursement out to them before the end of the fiscal year. So that's what we got, a fall submission, October and December. That's when we would open applications and we could do a big push, to promote that this is an option. And then going from there, the council workshop would be in January, and then we bring it back for approval for the contract in February council meeting. And then we'll get this contract signed, and then we'll do the post-event report. Submission needs to be done by March 15th, and then that gives us until basically right around the time that the next submission opens to get those reimbursements sent out. So then the same thing for the spring submission, which will then be reimbursed before the end of the fiscal year, September 30th. So
I did have a question because I've done some thinking about all this. As we mentioned that, we had a surplus because we didn't have a good way to get it before, in the last 2 years. Now we at least have a way to get it. So my concern is how you're going to even this out, because if you do a fall submission and then say we do 100%, I mean, we've got, you see what I'm saying? So like there may not be anything for the spring because more people are using it because there is a form now and there is a way to get it. So I'm just I'm just throwing that out there. I've just been thinking a lot about this because we did say that at some point there's gonna have to be a budget. Because you're only potentially getting, I guess it's an average, right? I mean, we're potentially, it's kind of reoccurring on how much hotel tax
Right.
we're receiving, and it's kind of perpetual about that amount. I'm assuming, right?
That's correct. Yeah. You know, it all depends on hotel occupancy, and then that the rate stays the same, but if we have a dip in occupancy level, that like we saw during COVID, I think we were bringing in about 30% of the revenues that we normally would in an average year. Our revenues are back to pre-COVID, but yes, you are correct. I think, I can't call the figure, but maybe 60,000 a year, just off the top of my head, that we bring in and hot funds revenue.
But that's not to say everybody will meet those qualifications. So we might have 50% or 80%.
Well, since I've been on here, we've approved every one.
And that's where y'all had requested that when we bring forward these applications like this, that we need to bring forward all of their past applications that they've received and how much they've received, and then also how many of y'all granted for all the organizations, so that way y'all have a better idea of how much you actually want to contribute. So that way you have a better judgment on what is going to be projected, so that way you know, okay, if you only have 60,000 to spend, okay, we're going to spend 30,000 in the fall and then 30,000 in the spring. So we would bring all that to present with those applications.
I mean, I do like the fact that we've got them where we should have them to approve at the same time. I do like that idea.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Also, I know that when people first started applying for these, we had a generous amount of money. Well, now we've given a lot of it away, right? Over the last few years. I know we've given, anyway, so is there a cap on what we give per organization or just per half of the year? Or is it just up to us?
well, I mean, that's why I'm throwing it out there.
So,
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Kind of a
getting
cap?
at.
yeah, so if the council decided that we're not gonna approve anymore, I'll throw the figure 50,000 a year, then get us for it to discuss. Maybe you'll break that up, 25 in the fall, 25 in the spring, or however you see fit, but I understand Mr. McCullough's point.
Well, or what we could do is we could say, okay, well, we approve 50%, say it's 30,000, whatever. And then in the spring, if there's anything left over, then we could go back to that organization. And I'm just trying to throw it out there because I've been thinking about it a lot.
You taking the average, we got 4 council members here that have less than 3 years of experience on the council and only one older person, and then the mayor with 4. We weren't involved in some of these. So the first run through that we had was it around 68,000 or
Total?
yeah, $68,000. And we based that off of feel good, basically. What do we think they deserve? And I guess that's the way it's going to continue to be. Is that?
So in the budget, I mean, there are line items specifically for these eligibility categories for what we could give out. So there is budgeted line items. And so in a sense, when these are approved, they should be within those budgeted amounts.
Okay.
Now, there hasn't been strict standards on that because it is a council decision and y'all control that budget. So, I mean, with the over giving of funds in the past, I mean, there is a surplus in that account, so it hasn't depleted that account by any means, but it is something to be thinking about as we move forward. Is there do you want to stick with those budgeted lines? And if so, then maybe that's something we need to pay more attention to when we go through that budget process.
Wouldn't that be the best way?
Absolutely.
That way-
So going forward, I think we would handle that value at budget time. So if the council decides we talk about that in the budget workshop, how much are we gonna put towards HOS fund reimbursements? But I think to talk about kind of something else I heard in your question as far as going on feel good, some of the feedback I've gotten is maybe we should have other people looking at it, those that are directly affected by tourism. Somebody from our lodging establishments or restaurants. Fortunately, I've kind of discussed that internally, instead of, that way we know what kind of impact each event had on our tourism. So, I mean, we could bring that back at a later time. We haven't had time to fully get that idea.
I like the guideline.
Well, the only thing is when somebody applies, just because we gave them 20,000 this year,
Mhm.
and they count on that, and then they come back to us, and then,
You're only able to give them 8.
well, I don't want somebody to make a negative comment because what we've done, even though we're trying to spread it out.
Well, guidelines should handle that, shouldn't it?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. The feel good part is when the fair came to us for the first time this year, one of the big qualifications is heads and beds. And they booked 60 rooms, the fair did, every year. That first time. And then Chief Barnes says, with them having some quite a bit of expenses this year that they have in the past, that next year they're not going to come to us at all. Is it possible? So, I know we gave them a large amount, but that's the true heads and beds. I mean, expense big. The fair does a lot. I think I expressed that last time we gave them. That's why we need that amount that they asked for. But
It's the only thing that lasts for a week,
Right. A lot of these other events are 1 day or
yeah.
or 2 days.
And actually, Thomas, this
And I seriously doubt if we'll be back for a while.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit the county next.
But I think that's Gary mentioned about the good. I think when we talked about the concert series, we asked, I think how many truly heads and beds were they? They really, I don't think they gave us the number. But,
No.
So that's some of those can be adjusted. I think Forrest had mentioned that's borderline. It's up to us at that point. When that one came up.
Well, all I'm trying to say is I don't want somebody to have because we gave 75%.
Yeah.
This year, they come back and we only give them 50, and then they go, then we get negative feedback.
One of the ways we could kind of maybe head that off or kind of temper expectations is like when Forrest said, when we open this up and we push this out that, hey, we're now taking applications for HOS fund reimbursements. The council has X amount of dollars to disperse at this time, and it's going to be on a weighted average. And, we can put some guidelines to it, but put that figure out front so they know that we're
And I would say it'd be 50%
of the total.
for fall. Yeah, because, like I said, we have a lot of things that happen in the fall. And, you could use everything up and then you don't have enough for the spring events.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you do that, and then if something, so let's say if we do 50-50, and so we max out the fall with say $30,000, we did 60,000, 30. And in the spring, we only get $10,000, but we could have given away 40 or 50 in the fall,
No, but we can go back to those.
and go back and give them more money later. Did they?
I mean, you could, or it could just roll into the reserve fund as far as the budget policies.
Right.
For the where it would go in for the next year.
I mean, I'm just saying, because I know the spring is when the summer concert series will apply, the fall is when the fair and whenever they come back after the county, after they go to the county and stuff.
Well, technically, the summer council, they should be in the fall. The way this is going to be, because this is after.
It's after,
When is the shooting thing?
In the fall. Yeah, everything's in the fall.
And it's not so much like their event has to be in that time frame. Like if so, like the fair, theirs is basically going to be the spring submission. If they're wanting those funds for the previous year, or because like they wouldn't have time to get their stuff in. Which is kind of what they did this year. Like they came in the spring and requested it, but it was for last year.
I understand we can roll it forward, but then if we had to cut somebody, that would be when we really had the money.
I mean, I will say,
I know it's a moving target, and it'll always be a work in progress on this thing. It's not that it will.
I know from talking to some of the organizations, a lot of them have over asked, and they're realizing we didn't really need that much money that we requested, but we're grateful that we got it because it's gotten them to where they can sustain themselves for longer, and they're not going to have to come back as often now.
Well, I think that's the thing is we just need to let them know whatever we give, it's a gift. It's not a
Something that they're
entitled to.
Entitled.
That's right.
Yes.
And that, I think if we put that out there, then regardless, if we do 100% one year and 50% the next year, they ought to be tickled pink that they got something, period.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to let them understand that. And then hopefully it'll cut off some of the negative. And then next year, if they want to be negative, then tell them don't come back. Just don't get it
One of
next
the
year.
groups came in and we were sitting here, wish she would have come in with a higher number.
Yeah, that was.
I said, and when you said they came in with a big number, and I think when you do summer concert, I think we gave them about half of what they were requesting because we do know the limit. You told us the limit that we, as far as the overall, and we were just divvying out of a bag. And then when the check society came, well, why didn't you come and ask for more? And so guidelines, if you have, I'm assuming you've already, you mentioned it, that those guidelines are already there. Would they be hard guidelines? So that's what Cameron was saying, could we come back if we deemed that we wanted to?
So it doesn't say that they couldn't come back. And we could put that language in there if we needed to. But as far as the guidelines go, like they couldn't request more because they didn't have enough eligible expenses.
Well, that would
That would
be
those guidelines came
okay.
in.
Okay, so you're setting a top end.
Yeah.
That. And to me, if somebody's negative or whatever they're given, shame on them because they didn't have it before.
They just won't get it next year.
Well, it's just,
time.
okay. Any more discussion?
Any changes?
no, I think this one's good.
The only, really, you just put the schedule in there, correct?
So do we do a motion to amend? Okay, we have a motion to amend the hotel occupancy tax reimbursement grant program application and reporting process from annual rolling submission to a semi-annual application deadline for grant applications.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next, entering into an interlocal agreement with Burleson County to provide library services.
So after the workshop session in August, when Heidi talked to y'all about moving GED program into the jail. Last Commissioners Court meeting at the beginning of the month, they had an agenda item that was adding, or I guess entering into an agreement with Region 6 and BBCOG to bring GED classes to the jail. So this is kind of the next piece that we were wanting to bring to y'all, to provide that branch library in the jail. So basically it would supplement the GED program to where we could provide books that are related to their classes and what they're learning, but then also fictional books, so that way they can also read and, you know, learn other stuff on their own, and nonfiction, like different trades and things like that that they might want to learn or pick up on. And by doing the interlocal agreement, it'll allow us to even branch out to where we could potentially set up a branch library in Somerville or Snook or Cade Lake or Deanville or Tunis, all of the small little communities that are in the county. Since we are the only library this year, we wouldn't necessarily request that they provide any funding to support the library unless y'all would like us to go that route. But the cost to do the branch library is like $150 based on what our annual fees are with our current library processing system. So the circulation fee, I mean, we have the annual fee, and then this is just an additional branch library fee. And so as we add more branch libraries, you know, that cost would increase, but just adding the one, we didn't feel that it was necessary to get any funding from them, kind of to see more of like a pilot to see if it's actually going to take off and work, and if there is potential for us to even branch into other parts of the community. So
$150 per year.
yes, per year. So any questions?
For $150.
Well, like I said, that's just the branch library piece. I mean, the actual system is more than that. But it doesn't, I mean, that, we have to have that in order to actually process circulation of books. So-
But on that, what you just said, don't we already provide that for our GED that we have? So we're not really going out of our way to provide this service. 150 divided by 12 is pretty cheap.
Any discussion, guys? We have a motion to enter into an interlocal agreement with Burlington County to provide library services. Second,
Second.
all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next, appointment of a council member to the City of Caldwell Public Funds Investment Committee.
So after the last meeting, y'all had approved the city's investment policy, and so with that, there is a committee called the Public Funds Investment Committee that's now established. We need to have a council member appointed to that committee. So it consists of the mayor, Camden, myself, Melissa, and Renee, and then a council person. So we just need a motion for whoever y'all would like to appoint.
You have to say it out loud.
I make a motion for Kevin Novak.
Are any of you guys itching to be on it?
I second that one.
All in favor of appointing Kevin Novak to the City of Caldwell Public Funds Investment Committee, raise your right hand. Ooh, unanimous. Do we need an alternate or not?
I mean, we don't have to. I mean, if he wanted to just have somebody sub in for him, I mean, he could do that. If you can't make it to him,
Okay.
I don't think we have to actually. I mean, unless you want to, it's up to y'all.
Anybody want to make a motion?
What do you mean, once a month or
That's a certain quarter.
once a quarter?
I mean, if you need to know, I mean, any one of us, I think, except for maybe Lee.
Bunch of meetings already.
Yeah. well,
Okay, you feel comfortable with that?
Okay.
I mean,
Cameron, you lucked out.
Could be my first
I thought
job.
the
Okay, next, approval of ordinance number 092023A and Exhibit A attachment, amending chapter 8.01.002 of the Caldwell Municipal Code of Ordinances, restricting the carrying of firearms, handguns, and air guns on city property.
So I've been waiting for this one. We've talked about this for several years and just kind of was always on the back burner. Currently, the code of ordinance reads that no city employee except for police officers can carry a firearm or weapon is really what it says. This amendment would allow employees that have a CHL to carry in their everyday duties. Like I said, we've been talking about this for at least a couple of years. I know last month, our staff got an opportunity to go to an active shooter training at the Civic Center. We hosted one, DPS put it on, and, you come out with a different view of it. What I learned over there is over 50% of active shooter incidents actually occur in the workplace. So this would be, when we look at safety of this building, when we look at really across the city, but this, I think, will really help out with that aspect.
Have you spoken with any of your guys about it?
My guys, most people that have a license are happy to carry.
What about the PD?
PD, I've talked to Chief Barnes and he has no issue with it. I mean, Caleb's here if I want to ask him, but we did run it through the PD as well.
So y'all have to, according to this, y'all
We'll keep a
have to
record.
keep a record of
Yes,
it.
we will keep a record of
And I'm
it.
sure the police department will have that in case there is an active shooting, so they know who.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think, after you go through that process, after you've gone through that class too, you're educated on what to do, even if you were to be in an active shooting and, as far as when actual law enforcement show up, you should know what to do.
All right, do we have a motion to approve ordinance number 092023A and Exhibit A, amending chapter 8.01.002, restricting the carrying of firearms, handguns, and air guns on city property? Motion to approve.
So move.
Second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next, approval of an interlocal agreement, Exhibit A attachment, and a mutual non-disclosure agreement for cybersecurity services with Texas A&M University.
Let's see if I can explain this one. Came up with an explanation right before council. The best explanation I can give you is this would have the Texas A&M cybersecurity team working for us. So this is an interlocal agreement to work with Texas A&M Cybersecurity Service. They will provide network detection and response, endpoint detection, basically all of the things. They're going to be monitoring everything that comes in and out of here. As they see, through AI, as they see things to look at, normal, there's a ticket created. There's just, and then they look into each item separately, but so we go through millions of tickets a year. This is, and I think we talked about this at our workshop too, and this actually saves the city money, and I think we're much better protected. So it's something that's ongoing and monitored on a daily basis. If you have any technical questions, I will have to defer to someone else.
Any discussion?
I'll go ahead and say, I've experienced multiple software packages like this. this is a very good start, I will say. We use a lot of Cisco in-house, where I work, and this is a direct competitor with Cisco. It utilizes some of their same, processes, their scanning vulnerabilities. I'm all for it.
More back now.
One of the things I left off though is we did have an actual cybersecurity incident here. This ILA actually goes response to, so we would have a response team immediately, and they'd be here as long as it took to kind of put everything back in order. I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to engage.
You're also looking like a whole department that it would take to run something like this, which they do on a daily basis. But I can tell you right now, even the company I work for, we don't have the depth of the capabilities of this software and the staff to run it.
Okay.
So to me, it's a win.
Would be much better than what we could.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve an interlocal agreement and a mutual non-disclosure agreement for cyber security services with Texas A&M University?
I motion.
Second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next, department and community reports. Benji, y'all been busy with code enforcement. Very busy. Great report.
On the electrical services report, I think there's a number that was entered wrong on the industrial. I don't think they use 9 million kilowatt hours of electricity. Because if they did, then our revenue should be really, really nice.
It may have been 9. Yeah. Right under.
Yes.
I like the other number better.
Well, yeah, but the revenue didn't correspond with it.
Water consumption is still up.
Water, we're still good.
I'll cover that in a second.
Okay, any discussion about department and community reports, guys? Okay, onward. Administrative and elected officials reports. Mr. White.
Okay, so water, we're still good. Yes, actually, today we started to install the VFD for well 3. So we're hoping we wrap that up by the end of the week. You know, Tricia's coming back to finish his work on Thursday, and then there'll still be the issue of programming with it. So depending on when we can get him down here, hopefully this week, we'll have that thing online by the end of the week, which would be fantastic. Let's see, along with that project, the EDA project is kind of nearing completion. They're about to pour the last bit of, well, not last, but it's a large pour still to go, but it's already beginning to get framed up and everything. They are waiting to cut in the water line until we get well 3 back online, because that would actually put well 5 offline. So we want to make sure we've got plenty of water to run. You know, even though we got a little bit of rain, we want to make sure that we've got plenty to push through the system. Sticking with water, I think we've covered this before. I want to make sure we may have to have a meeting somewhere in between. TechStop has got a rehab project on FM 975 on the books. And in order for them to accomplish that, they're lowering some drainage, which means it's created some conflict with our water lines. So we're going to have to lower certain sections of our water lines. We just sent out kind of a bid package to several contractors. Of course, if it's over $50,000, we'll have to have a meeting, have that approved. We haven't seen anything from them. I don't have any indication. I think it would be really close to that. But prices are crazy right now, so who knows? just looking at it, we talked before about some reorg, we're trying to move some folks around, move some departments around. We're looking at possibly reutilizing the old fire station. Trying to get a bid to see what it would take to take a couple of the bays and make them into office space. Along with, so we were considering moving water services over there. And that way we have bays for trucks, bays for pipe, kind of house them all within one little area. Still have some room for other stuff. I know we use it for storage, but it would open up some stuff. I will bring that back to council when I find out some more. Talked about the EDA project, the Hurricane Harvey mitigation project. Seems like it's getting pushed a little bit. We had to submit, it's not that it's getting pushed, we had to submit a change of scope because we had to take some of the items that we had in there out. A lot of it had to do with some sewer line repair that we were gonna do replacement over by the cemetery. And whenever you do anything with a grant near the cemetery, it blows the scope up to where you have to have an architect or an archaeologist on site whenever you're doing any work over there. So it substantially increases the price of everything. So we just remove those things. But when we change the scope, now we have to wait for the approval of that scope before we can move forward. So I think it'll delay us maybe a few months until that gets done. The ARPA project, which is the 2 lift stations, one at Caldwell Country, and then the Pit Grill lift station, we're looking at bid openings on that in the first week of October. So that thing is rolling. I'm excited to see what those come in at, to see hopefully we can get any extras or anything else. We've been kicking around, this is the last thing, I know we got other stuff to talk about. Been kicking around the idea of a volunteer day with our staff. So that might look like just kind of the city sponsoring whatever organization you may want to volunteer with for the day, and then the city still picking up your salary for the day. So take for instance, like one that I was looking at, Special Olympics is having their fall classic in College Station in October. You know, just to encourage our staff just to kind of get out and do some volunteer work. I don't have all that framed up yet, but it's something that we've kind of been discussing. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that or not. If you,
Special Olympics one's fun.
I've done it before. It's yeah, it is fun. So, but just kind of another way to bring us together as a team and just realize that, you know, we get beat up, you know, in our everyday stuff, and then I think you go and have a day like that, and just kind of bring it back down. That's it.
The only thing I have is the Bear Parade this weekend, lineup at 9:30 on Fox Street. I'm not sure what number we're usually
Right at the front.
right in the front.
We're
I
between 1 and 8 usually.
have a truck available from Bud Cross Ford if anyone is interested in participating.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Okay. So 9:30 on Saturday.
No.
Is that it?
That's it. Sorry.
Easter?
We have a lot to talk about afterwards, so, pass right now.
It's paper ready and everything.
Well, if you want me to.
Oh, we'll talk later.
I was reading the letter from State Representative Brian Harrison on our emails. I finally have figured all that out. But anyway, there is a way that we can have, it's called the Texas COVID Vaccine Freedom Act. Would y'all check into doing that? We have to do we can exercise our right as a community by passing some type of resolution or ordinance. Will y'all look into that? So we. State failed to do it, so they're allowing local communities
To require or not require?
not to require.
Not
Okay.
require.
Yeah, no, not require. Yeah, no, I would
Where's
be.
this headed?
No,
Where's this
not require. If it becomes a mandate, you know. your citizens don't have to because of our
Thank you.
resolution. So
What about your businesses?
I don't know. I didn't get into all those details. I just.
Because the businesses.
I'll find it.
So, but I think it's something we need to look into for our city, for our community. Be proactive if we can. Thank you. That's all I have. Oh, wait, no, I do have one other thing. So I was at a TARP meeting and we had y'all probably know him, he's from A&M, the emergency guy. And they were talking about warning sirens, and that's not really for our community, that's a rare thing. And I think it's a wonderful thing. But they were talking about the Hawaiian fires and why they didn't set off the sirens was because everybody was trained that it was strictly for tsunamis. And so they didn't want to set it off and have an evacuation into the fire. So is there a way for us to do, because I mean, really the siren is used for tornadoes in our area, but I'm not worried, as dry as it's been, if we had some type of fire, is there a way to do different tones or something and train the community to use it as not just for tornadoes?
So that exists. I don't know about, our system is
Oh,
old
I know you.
and we need to replace it. And if you had a new system, yes, there's like 5 or 6 different tones that you can utilize. But I think ours is just the one. The others do work. They haven't been used in so long that
Okay.
probably don't, but we can
Well,
investigate.
On the phone, it tells you the test is for different
So
short, long, short.
that was the original when it was first installed, and
So it's not
it
really
does
the
not
case.
do that. So we've modified the message to be updated because
Okay,
she informed us that it does not do the 3 different
Okay.
tones. So
I just think.
I just wanted to bring
But
that
we are
up.
still, if you happen to come across any funding in any of these meetings for that specifically, I've asked others to look as well, but
We can still use alerts. So.
I was gonna
We can,
say.
yeah.
alert.
But I mean, you have to have a phone, you have to have signed on or access or given permission or whatever. So it was a very interesting presentation he gave. That's all I have.
What is the update on the charging station at Whataburger? Has that happened or where are we with that?
It's in the review process. They haven't submitted their application for us to submit to Accord Engineering for their electrical review, but they have been in contact with Jerry and I, and we've been going back and forth on getting them all set up and getting all their stuff organized so they can submit their formal. It'll be 6, right now it's 6 charging stations in front of the Whataburger.
Wow.
We grew from one.
I didn't want
But if you go to Bucky, there'll be 18 or 20 of them coming from Cypress. So they're all hooked up.
Thomas, do you have a guesstimate of what the city outside expenses were for Kolach Festival prep? Beforehand, during, and after?
Very little, really. We
Like-
just,
like
we
overtime?
spent very little. We'll have overtime. As far as the porta cans, I had the bill, I forwarded that to the chamber.
Okay,
We had cleanup fee was, I believe, 2,100. I guess we covered that. We paid the cleanup guy there. So mainly just overtime.
which is about what?
we can go back and look.
We
but
could, we'd have to put a,
each one of the.
we could figure it out easy.
12 hours. We have to go back and look at Jerry's crew too. They spent a lot of
Right.
time setting up boards. And I'll bring it back.
Okay,
As we've had, I think payroll, we're either in that payroll session.
it was in
we
the
just-
previous one,
we
so
get
it'll be
just
there.
closed, so we can pull some reports.
and then I understand there was no communication this year?
Oh, none.
No, I understand not with the county either?
It was, we just do what we always do.
Okay, very good.
The electric lines, I know we have communication lines and, whether it be, I don't know if there's old cable lines, but I mean, I feel like that they don't necessarily do what they're supposed to do. And, so I'm just asking, because I mean, some of them are pretty dang low, you know. My father-in-law is probably less than 12 feet in front of his house. That's on Johnston. And you just look and see how many lines are in there. It's like, you don't even know what's valid, what's not. I mean, I'm just using that as an example because, you know, it is pretty low in my mind.
There's certain requirements that they're X amount of space away from our lines, but you know, as we in the past have kind of allowed just about anybody to jump on our poles, you know, they've gotten pretty cluttered up.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying they run a new line, but they don't take down the old line. You know, that's what I'm thinking, because you can't have, you know, probably, I don't know, I can count them, but you know, Suddenlink, I don't even know if they're here anymore, or somebody bought them out, right? Okay, and then you got
They're working.
then you got Frontier, and then you could have ZoneNet, and you could have, so you should only have 4 lines, right?
You got it. But this is running.
Airplane, that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't have more than 4, right?
It depends on how they run there. Not that you may have more.
Yeah.
But we need to look and make sure it's full contact contracts with those folks. And, you know, if it become, and I think it's getting to the point where it's becoming an issue of having too many contacts on
Yeah, well, I'm just asking a question.
But don't they pay by pole?
there. It's,
So they are being charged for that use.
So we got areas the garbage truck has to zigzag down the street so we don't pull them down.
Well, a few years ago, I mean, I had one pulled. They pulled it could have been a bad deal. It pulled a guy's service. They were sleeping in the front room. It pulled his whole, his service out, pulled the transformer down in my yard, and it just had mineral oil all in the yard. I mean, Thomas knows that this don't happen on Friday. Those guys out there till 10 or 11 o'clock on Friday.
yeah, it's something we definitely look at. Because one of the bad thing about that is it's hard to identify who owns what.
Look. I
So,
needed
but
to
we
do
we can try to do an inventory and maybe send a letter out to a lot of providers.
Well, I'm just saying that they need to maintain their lines, and if they're dead, they need to remove them, you know? I mean, it's kind of like, you know, the trash, you know, we don't, you know what I mean? So, anyway, that's all.
Jesse? Mr. Blackwell?
No,
All right. Okay, at this time, we will recess into executive session. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming. I'm actually going to take a 2-minute break. You're good. Yes.
Fair week next week, he's a busy man.
There we go. So, and then it got overcast. and spring and that whole fall. Then it got hot again, but it's very different.
Did the heat.
I didn't quite know.
Next meeting, this.